8:11 in the morning. It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160. I tell you what, it's much, much more entertaining to listen to us as Greg Brown and I talk off the air. As we're talking on the air. Hey, Greg, we added Sanso's Italian Deli to the list today. You got a good Italian deli down in Bradenton?
Nothing like Sanso's. I wonder if can I do Grubhub from down here to, will that work? I don't know. I'll have to check that out.
Give it a shot. I don't know if their driver goes that far or not, but I can imagine the tip you'd have to provide for something.
Yeah,
like
that's true. Well, then forget it.
Greg Brown of the Pirates. Well, that does lead into an interesting conversation because, these players coming into Bradenton and into Pirate City as well, especially those younger guys, they don't know where to go to get something to eat, to get their dry cleaning done. If they're doing that, they're probably not doing a lot of dry cleaning. But the basic services that you need. But you've been down there for a number of years, and you sort of settled into the routine down there. I think that's something that we have to understand about ball players, though, is especially these young guys. They're trying to make a ball club, but they're also trying to make sure that they're getting around and getting to the right place at the right time. They still got to live their lives.
Well, Todd, that's especially true from players who are not from this country, and so you think about trying to assimilate to a culture, a community. It's one thing to be born and raised in California, and then have to spend 7 weeks in Bradenton, Florida, for the first time in your life. But it's quite another thing to grow up, in the Dominican Republic or South Korea.
Yeah.
I think about that with Ji-Won Bae, who has, he's gone through some issues off the field when he was selected by the Braves a few years ago. The Pirates ended up getting him because the Braves had circumvented some baseball rules, and that's was to the Pirates' benefit. They were able to get this one top prospect from the Braves organization, Ji-Won Bae. But I credit him because he made it a point to learn the language. He speaks as good English as anybody. It's phenomenal. He's still a young guy from South Korea. Still spends the off season back home in South Korea, and so he just kind of dove into the culture. Meanwhile, I look at a guy like the 21-year-old that the Pirates picked up from the Dominican Republic last year, Malcolm Nunez, who is really learning. Here's a guy who came from the Dominican, goes to the Cardinals organization, has been in the United States little less than 3 years, and now it's one thing to try and learn American culture, and then he leaves that organization and he comes to the Pirates organization, so he's got to continue to try and learn the language and the culture and different players now, different teammates. You're right. It can be a really, really difficult thing to add to this big plate of trying to become a successful Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, really. You think back a couple of years ago, I can't remember the name of the young guy from Africa, but they actually came in.
Oh, Gift and Gope.
Yeah, Gift.
Yeah.
They found him sleeping in a laundry cart inside the clubhouse when they got into work one day.
Yeah, imagine that. You think about the guys, and we tend to forget that about. Because we focus in on, come on, Pirates, let's turn this losing around, let's win ball games. But boy, if you zero in on each individual story and you hear stuff like that about how important this game is to these players, how much they love the game and how much they want to succeed, it really gives you a great appreciation for them.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And for those guys who, as you said, assimilate themselves into the culture, it really does turn into an amazing story. I think of the Manny Sanguillen story, and we've talked about him quite often. And Manny, going back to the Roberto Clemente days, and when Clemente disappeared, and how distraught Manny was. I think the story was that he was the only guy from that team that didn't go to Roberto's memorial service, and that's because he was out on the beach looking for him.
Yeah, he couldn't handle it. His best friend, and then to add to his plate, to put more pressure on him, Bill Verdon, who the late Bill Verdon passed away a little over a year ago, admitted that maybe one of his biggest mistakes as the manager of the Pirates the following year was to try and replace Roberto Clemente with Manny Sanguillen. So when Sanguillen reported to Bradenton, Florida, following the death of his great friend, he is told, "You're now the new right fielder." And that experiment lasted into the regular season for just, I think, a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, where, Manny was just so distraught, continued to be, and to try and learn the new position, it just did not work. So he went back to that catching position, and of course we know how great a catcher he was throughout his Pirates career.
Yeah, pretty amazing. All right, let's look at this year's team and what's been going on here in this first week of exhibition ball games. Mitch Keller got roughed up a little bit yesterday, and that's going to happen. So, I remember hearing something from, I can't remember which pitcher it was last year, in his first few outings in spring training. They said, well, I was only going out there throwing fastballs today. I just wanted to really work on locating my fastball, so that's all I threw. Everybody knew that that's what I was throwing, and so it was really easy to tee off on it a little bit. They weren't really pitching, per se, to win a ball game or to get through an inning. They were just working on control at that point, and that's one of the things we have to realize, especially as a guy gets to be a veteran pitcher. He wants to work on certain things, and I don't know that was the case with Mitch yesterday, but pitchers will do that.
100%. Hitters will do that as well, to try and do different things at the plate. Those that, and I don't know what the cutoff is. I don't know when a player knows he's in. I mean, Mitch certainly knows he's part of the rotation, so he qualifies for this particular topic, where he is going into camp first and foremost to stay healthy. But a very close second is to try and hone his skills, maybe learn a new pitch. There's a lot of talk, Todd, about Keller now coming to the pitcher's mound with 6 available pitches.
Yeah.
Last year, he learned that sinker, that two-seam fastball that dives into the right-handed hitters, and they pound it into the ground. And now this year, the talk is he's got 6 different pitches, which, is all well and good, but I'm suspect when it comes to stuff like this. I'm all for Mitch being really, really good and helping the Pirates win, but man, there's such a fine line, I think, and I'm speaking from an amateur standpoint, obviously, just a fan standpoint. Be real good at the little things. That's what makes great players and great teams. Now, maybe Mitch can handle 6 pitches. We'll wait and see. I hope so. But I liked the Mitch Keller that we saw the second half of last year. I like that one a lot. So we'll see. Now, yesterday there was one wind-blown home run. The one thing that we're going to watch the rest of spring, and by the way, we play our first night game tonight, which is going to be fun. We have 5 night games this spring, so we'll be under the lights. But we're going to watch for how, with these new rules, how do the Pirates defend against the stolen base? The Yankees took full advantage of that pace clock as the base runners watched as that 20-second clock started to wind down, and when it got close to 2-1, they took off because they knew the pitcher was not going to throw to first. He had to throw to the plate most times, and they stole 4 bases yesterday. How do the Pirates defend against the steal, and how do they take full advantage of the new rules and the stolen bases? We'll find that out. They've not yet really taken full advantage of that offensively, so I'm looking forward to watching that the remainder of spring training.
Yeah, and the sad part about our conversation this morning is this is my last chance to talk with you for a while. And we'll be talking with Walkie next week, and I want to ask Walkie about those pitching issues. And as I recall, Bob Walk worked pretty fast when he was on the mound. I don't think that 20-second clock would matter with him.
I want you to say that to him and listen to him laugh, because he makes fun of himself. He would have had trouble, I think, with the pitch clock. But Todd, and I know we're running out of time here, when you talk to Bob, I want you to ask him about what it's like to be baseball's version of Johnny Carson. For Johnny Carson, who for younger audiences was the host of the Tonight Show for like 30 years up until the early 1990s. And when Carson settled into that chair, the last several years of his career, he decided it was vacation time. So he would work, my goodness, it seemed like 2 times a week for the last few years. So you'd have to get a guest host in there with Don Rickles, Joan Rivers, whoever. So it was a standing joke when Carson, in later years, when he would show up, they would kind of make fun of the fact that, hey, good to have you back. So Bob Walk makes his way into Florida this weekend. He's not been here yet. He'll be here for a couple of weeks, and then he takes off for Pittsburgh for the last 2 weeks. So ask him what it's like to be Johnny Carson.
I'll pretend I'm surprised on Monday when he answers the phone and say, I thought there would be a guest host.
Yes. Say, well, wow. Are you? Ask him ask him at the end. Say, well, who will be filling in your shoes on Wednesday, Bob?
I'll say I thought it was going to be Don Rickles.
Yeah. Just don't say Joan Rivers.
There you go. Hey, Joe Garagiola, he hosted for Johnny Carson for a while.
And Bob Uecker. That's a better man, Bob Uecker.
Yeah. All right, we'll have fun with Walkie next week. It's been fun with you, Greg, this last week as well, and I appreciate every time I get a chance to talk baseball with you.
Hey, Todd, thanks, man. I appreciate you and Sansos now and Delaney and Fritz and A&A Construction and best of luck, too. I didn't get a chance to congratulate Jack Benedict, who continues to do championship and Hall of Fame work.
You betcha, and just celebrated his 80th birthday last Sunday.
Oh, my gosh, that's great. That's awesome. Happy birthday, Jack.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
You too, Todd. Thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM and AM 1160.